Good morning and happy Thursday. Welcome to this week's Market of the Moment. And it's funny because I try to be slick every week and do the whole making the adjustments on my Facebook really slick, and then I talk about it every time. So here we go, and that's also. So good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Don Chakowski. I'm the Director of Channel Sales for Fidelity National Title. My accomplice in Market of the Moment, Miss Sharon Terhune, is not here this week as her daughter is getting married, and she's got a lot of mother of the bride stuff to do. So we decided collectively that was good enough to give her a pass for this week. Anyway, we also have Miss Mindy Jones of the Amy Jones Group. Mindy, thank you for joining us, and we are looking forward to the market update.
Morning, guys. I'll do my best to find you guys some more houses, I promise.
We appreciate it. And so, we're probably about 35, 45 minutes away till your update. So you have some time if it's not there yet. And good morning, Ms. Amber Kavarg of Guild Mortgage. Thank you so much, Amber.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And we are expecting super low interest rates today. I mean, they've all been super low, but if you can do anything to lower them a little bit more, we're happy to see that too.
Good.
And I am really excited. I wanted to have Mr. Curtis Johnson on for some time, and we were able to get aligned today. So Mr. Curtis Johnson of eXp Realty and the owner of the easy for me to say, the owner of the Curtis Johnson Group. Good morning, Curtis.
Good morning. It's good to be on with y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we know that you're super busy and you've got a lot going on. And I saw some.
Yeah, I blocked out the next 4 hours. We're good to go. Let's roll.
Yeah. I saw that it was actually Justin's birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
And I saw that there was quite the celebration going on in your office. So
yeah, we had a good time. Yesterday was the first back really in-person meeting we've had. And it was a year and a week ago that we, pretty much shut it down, and we've sporadically had stuff, but this was really our bigger, first one back. We had about half the people come back in, social distance, all that stuff like that. But it's good to be and see people, a lot of people at once instead of just kind of the one-off, two-off type stuff. So I think we're getting back to a little bit of a normal life, I guess.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's what, and I saw that there was no shortage of calories. I saw a lot of desserts floating around. So they had Christy made some amazing cake, and they had pizza and everything like that. And yeah, so it's good to celebrate with some agents. So excellent. Yeah. Well, Curtis, you had a great career, and we're always excited to talk about some of the things that you've done. And
is this an obituary?
You continue to have a great career.
Oh, okay.
But it's funny, and you and I talked about this a little bit before, but there was a CRM product you were working with for a while, and there was a webinar that I just really loved hearing your story about how you got into real estate, what that looked like for you, some of the restrictions that were put on you by your family, saying, "Hey, look at we need to have an income coming in here," and what that looked like. I was hoping we could start off kind of sharing the story of Curtis Johnson, and how you built what you've built.
Yeah, my wife's a good sport, but anytime I can throw her under the bus, I go ahead and do that. So I've been in business a little over 22 years now, and I did a lot of different things throughout. Growing up, I started working early. I think I was like 8 years old. Our family had a hot dog stand, and I had a paper out from 11 to 18. I always worked 2-3 jobs, and didn't keep a lot of them, right? But it just moved from job to job, pretty much was unemployable for a long time, worked for a real estate attorney. Right towards the end, thought, hey, that's going to be great. Turned out it was really just collecting child support, and there was really no winners in that game.
Yeah.
So I convinced my wife. I said, hey, I really want to go into real estate. How hard can it be? And she was a controller at a mortgage company, so she knew how hard it was. And she saw the massive turnover, and she's like, do not do it. And I said, I think I can do it. I think I could sell stuff. I'm like, how hard could it be, right? So we came to an agreement, and she said, fine, you got 90 days to sell a house. If you don't sell a house, then you got to go get a real job, right? And I'd pretty much already shown that wasn't going to happen. I really was unemployable, wasn't going to keep anything I couldn't work for somebody else. So I just did almost everything I could do, right? As walking neighborhoods and in apartment complexes in the middle of the night, running from security guards and putting flyers out and cold calling people was back when, again, 22 years ago. So I would manually run searches for people. I'd cold call people, find out if they were thinking of buying or selling, and then manually search for them every morning, and then print out stuff, and then I'd actually drive it to people's houses and knock on their door, right? And because I was like, hey, I will do anything. And I eventually got lucky and sold one house. Kind of struggled my way through that the first year. The first 10 months, I sold 10 houses, made like $24,000, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're doing incredible. And I thought, this is terrible. What am I doing? And I was like, I can't trade any more time. Really, like I can't work any more than what I'm doing. I'm already working ridiculous. And so I really just kind of said, okay, well, I need to learn what I don't know, because it's either a skill or a person you need to know. So I just really traveled the country, hired the best coaches in the world, traveled all over North America to just learn what I didn't know, right? And really, you kind of lift your head up and you see people that are selling 100, 200, 300 houses a year. All of a sudden, it changes your paradigm and your perspective on stuff. So I came back. I did a lot of stuff. One of the things, like my wife got pregnant at the time too, that motivates you as well. And then over the next about 9 months, I sold, I think, about 44 houses in the next 9 months by really just kind of diving in and really diving into marketing and leverage and understanding that. And I built a team, and I've had a team for about 20 years. Going through that, we sold almost 6,000 homes now here in the Valley, and done a lot of good stuff. Been in the top 250 teams in America 9 times, as high as the top 50 with that. But really, it's just about the relationships and the people, right? So it's about the families, and I just get jacked up over real estate. I just think this is an opportunity for us. Obviously, you can make a lot of money, you can do a lot of things, but I think real estate's a microcosm of life, that as you go on and you take yourself on in real estate and you get better, as you improve, your income improves. And if you can make it in real estate, you can make it anywhere, but it's every day you go to battle with yourself, and it's about self-improvement. It's about, surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, that make you better. Because I think, my opinion is, I think there's a broken industry, and I think it's an industry that's designed to make people very lonely. It's designed for the individual agent to sell a few houses a year, struggle, and do just enough to keep their license, but not enough to really succeed and have a great life. And it's up to us to be able to fight through that, to be able to say, hey, how do I surround myself with winners? Because here's the deal. Nobody succeeds alone, right? Mindy's going to go through, talk about the market here in a little bit and everything. We rely on each other. Yeah, we compete on stuff, but the reality is we rely on each other so much more than anything else. And that you have to have a reputation inside the industry that you're able to cooperate with other agents, right? Is that nobody succeeds alone. It's, it's not just your broker, your team leader. It's everybody that surrounds you, but it's also one of the easiest businesses to just hibernate and hide at home and really take the weight of this industry, and can suffocate you and feel really lonely. And so I think that there's some good options out there for people.
Curtis, I think now more than ever that loneliness of this business can be really something that is shining through. One is, the whole COVID situation, right? So restrictions on so many things, although, we're seeing less of that now, but still over this last year, it's been pretty rough. Secondly, just the competitiveness in the market with the low inventory, that, when you're firing off an offer and you're excited for your buyers and nobody's getting back to you and you're not hearing anything, or you're going through the rejection around all of that, that can make it really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just encourage everybody, again, man, I hate sounding like the old person here, but again, being in the business 22 years, you see cycles, right? You see cycles of stuff. And I've seen so many, in my opinion, pretty good people that handled their business pretty poorly during some of the crashes. And a lot of times when people really went into REOs and different things like that, when the markets were falling apart, we didn't really get into that, right? We got a couple REO accounts. we realized the banks were, they were fraud and they were doing everything wrong and they weren't treating us very good. And I said, I'd rather go out of business than work with you. And they said, well, everybody wants these accounts. I said, good, then give it to them, because we'd rather suffer and go through and just try it on our own than have to be dealing with you. And so we went through, and obviously we got our head kicked in like everybody else. But what happened is there's a lot of people that treated other agents poorly during that time. They didn't return calls. They didn't respect other agents. And when the pendulum swung back, their businesses got really hurt bad. And so I'm just encouraging everybody now is, whether you got listings or whether you don't, that we treat everybody with respect. We treat everybody with kindness, and we try and help out. Everybody was a new agent at one point. Yeah, it sucks to have to baby people through the process sometimes, but we've got to be able to help out. And even just for your own self-preservation, be responsible, return calls, go through, do the best you can. Don't just be like, hey, it's the golden rule. He with the gold makes the rules. That's crap, man. We need this industry to step up and help each other out. And yeah, there's people that are homeless out there. Not everybody's getting the home, right? That's just how it is. But I think that we can all do self-preservation so that when we come out of this, your reputation isn't destroyed and make it, because guess what? It is not always going to be like this, right? There's a lot of really smart people out there, that right now they're preparing and getting ready for short sales and a lot of other stuff like that. Like, again, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen in the market unless you watch the rest of the show. But things change. Things change. It will not always be like this.
For sure. Mindy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I love listening to Curtis speak. You guys know out there watching, if you watch us often, I am like evangelizing about the industry often. And so I love when people come on here and fight for the ethics and the values and the morals that we all stand for as an industry on behalf of our clients. And I just wanted to say that this topic actually came up this morning, and Curtis is talking about it much from the perspective of, preserving our reputation, right? And knowing that if you're going to do this business for the long term, you've got to treat your daily relationships like you're in it for the long term. And where I also am seeing it is, it's almost a buyer beware or consumer beware, that not all agents are created equal. And often our buyers agents are coming into challenges where their listing agents that they're trying to submit offers on are not even responding to them. And I think that if consumers only knew that the representation that they're getting out there is not the same from one person to the next, and that you literally have people calling saying, I want to buy this house. I want to give the seller everything they're asking for. Tell me how to make my offer better. Tell me what I need to do. And your listing agent is not even picking up the phone, or not even returning the phone call, or using lazy negotiation tactics that make less work for them and don't provide any guidance to the buyer's agents who are trying to put their best foot forward. You as a consumer are losing thousands of dollars. You're losing the ability to make the home sale process what you need it to be someone who can compete and participate in today's market. And I just think it's very important that you're having conversations with your agents out there about their expertise, about their strategy, about their communication style, their negotiation style. It's very clear if someone's sitting across the table from you like Curtis, he would be able to address and communicate and speak to all of those challenges in today's market.
Yeah, you nailed it with that, Mindy. And again, the sad thing about it is the end user, the client, will never know. That's the reality, right? They're just gonna know they just missed out on the house, or everybody else's house is selling. Why isn't mine? And again, there's a lot of reasons why, but to say that agents don't matter is a fallacy. And I think it's actually one of the biggest lies in real estate. One is that your home is going to sell at the same price no matter who you hire, which is a joke, because if that was the case, then don't hire anybody, right? Then, save all the money and sell it yourself. But the reality is there's a 22% price swing, right? That your home can sell for as much as 11% below and 11% above, based on how you handle up to 168 different variables in the transaction. And part of that is who you hire and how they go through and market your home and handle the negotiations. There isn't just one negotiation. There's 3 stages of negotiations. Even after there's an acceptance, right? There's inspections. There's all kinds of different things. So it's a fallacy out there that, what's the value of my house? Well, there is no value of a house. There's a range, and based on how you handle things, your home's going to sell inside of that. And there's a lot of people out there going, oh my gosh, you don't need an agent because my home's going to sell. Sure, right? Any knucklehead right now can sell a house. It's not about is your house going to sell. It's going to be, are you going to maximize everything and put as much money in your pocket, and what's your experience going to be like? So kind of like what Mindy was talking about is there's a lot of people that they won't maximize it, and they won't know why. And part of it is because maybe that agent is ostracized a lot of the other agents out there, because we do rely on each other, and maybe they haven't been returning calls to people. And so people are like, you know what, I don't even want to show that house. Like, is that right? Maybe not. But the reality is agents are people. And if there's jerks out there, a lot of times people don't want to deal with them. And at the same point, if you've got a staff, if you run a real well-organized team, like what Mindy does, myself, there's so many amazing teams out there. But guess what? We do a lot of the heavy lifting for people to make it easier. And we increase the chance of that home closing and a better experience for everybody. So things matter, right? It does matter who you choose to get in business with, and it matters who you hire to work and represent you on the buyer side and the seller side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I appreciate both of you guys, and I get to see the professionals both of your teams are exhibiting on a regular basis. And you guys are, there's no doubt you guys are looking out for your clients and looking out for those buyers and looking out for those sellers. And that is so important in this process. So, Curtis, I want to shift gears a little bit. And, you've done an amazing job with marketing and branding, and as Mindy has too. And I was thinking about that before we all jumped on, is like, I've got 2 of the best.
Well, they're better looking, and that's not fair, right? Because if we're gonna go just like like everyone, they get a second look. There's much better looking where I've got a lot to overcome, so I've got to be a better marketer.
Well, I think we all appreciate that, Curtis. Good.
You're looking pretty smooth there, Don. You're looking dapper. I'm just saying, I don't know who's handling your wardrobe, but you're looking good, man.
I'm having a good hair day, so I appreciate it. That's it. But so, Curtis, you put together a lot of partnerships, a lot of endorsement partnerships. You put together a lot of great branding. You're very consistent with the team, what you provide for them. So can you tell us about the evolution of that and what that's looked like?
Yeah, sure. I think, getting started, I started out kind of with a no-name, tiny little brokerage. I won't really get into all that when I first started and everything. And I was doing really well, but I thought I was 26. I was just a lot younger, right? Didn't have a lot of world experience with stuff, but I wanted to win. I was like, I'll do anything. And someone that was really close to me ended up choosing somebody else because they said, hey, they were CRS and they were with RE/MAX, and their relocation company was with them. And I thought, okay, well then I need to get a CRS. I need to have that designation, and I need to be with a big player. And so I joined RE/MAX, and that was really good because I could win, but I also had kind of some wind at my back, right? I had things that made it look as if, hey, he's doing the right activities, right? He's has the trappings of success, if you will, right? And I was winning, but at the same point, I'd been on the cover of Realtor magazine, done a lot of really cool stuff. But at the same point, there's perception out there, right? So there was that, and I used a lot of the millions and millions of dollars that RE/MAX did. And then as I went through, I wanted to buy a RE/MAX franchise. It's the reality of it. And they were, no, we're good. We don't need it. And I was a top agent. I was like, I'm going to go make you guys a lot of money. Let me just do it. And they're like, no, we're good. And I said, okay, well, Keller Williams is offering me a little bit of ownership. And, Gary Keller had come out with the Red Book. And I was like, hey, I wanted to be around people. And so I went to KW, loved it, had a great experience, loved my time at RE/MAX, loved my time at KW. But I realized at the time, it really was kind of more Keller who, right? It didn't have the same reputation that RE/MAX did. And so I started looking for other different things, and right. So I had different endorsements, and I made contributions to help out Wounded Warrior foundations and stuff like that. And so it got me in touch with different talk show hosts and different stuff like that. And what I did is, they were on the radio and TV all the time, right? And so you're competing, if you will. Great guy, but up against like Russell Shaw or something like that, where he could put in, $100,000 a month in TV, and he was the brand. I went a little bit different, and I said, okay, how about if, we use some of the people that are already spending a lot of money and kind of piggyback on their stuff, right? So over the years, we've had endorsements from, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Barbara Corcoran. Probably 10 other different people, right, throughout the years. With stuff. And again, it's a process of helps you learn the marketing process, but at some point the agent becomes the brand, right? And you don't need to do that. And again, at the end of the day, you still have to win, right? It's not like someone just goes, oh, well, hey, this person said to use you, but it does get you a little kick in the door in some cases. I think that, sorry to pivot just a little bit, but I think that right now, the world that we live in, you're a broadcast studio right now. Right, like we're going live to hundreds and thousands of people that can watch this. Where before there was really a few different mediums. It used to be just TV and radio. Now each individual agent really becomes their own marketing platform if they allow. I still suggest that they join a team, join somebody that already has a lot of that oomph going. Instead of, like, if you're going to come out, I used an example yesterday in a meeting, was if you're going to. You come out with a great recipe, right? I love soda. I shouldn't say that, but I love soda, right? Come out with a great recipe for soda, and you've got this thing, and you want to go get it out there. Do you really want to go take on Coke and Pepsi and everybody? No. If it's that great, because here's the deal, you're never going to get shelf space. You're never going to get in front of people. Go make a deal with them. Go partner with them. Get shelf space, and then eventually you become your own brand, if you will. And that's what I think a lot of people joining the industry just miss out on. Is I talk to these new agents that I go, why'd you get in real estate? They're like, I just want to get my brand out there. I'm like, well, what's your brand? And they're like, well, my brand. I go, let's get clear about this. Your brand is you haven't sold anything. You don't know what you're doing. You've got terrible marketing. Why would that's your brand right now? Is that you want to make sure everybody knows that you've never sold a house? You want to make sure everybody knows you're not competent. Like, that's your brand right now. So when we talk about building a brand, there's so many advantages. I wish I had done it different, but there's so many advantages by joining someone like Mindy, or so there's some incredible teams. Obviously, I think our team's pretty good, but to join and be a part of it and to partner instead of competing against some of the big behemoths out there.
I think some of that's ego driven, right, Curtis? And that's natural when you're in an industry that's, commission based, if you will. People are coming in and they come, often with a sales background or a sales mindset, which is obviously only a piece of the full picture of what we do here. And I think sometimes you're battling those egos when really, if you're in it for the right reasons and it's something you want to do for a long time, and you want to fulfill big goals and dreams of your own, of your families, of your team members, of your community, then what you need is you need to make the partnerships that will allow you to go further faster, right? And I think you spoke to that in all the decisions you made and the brokerages that you chose to be at and the changes that you made and the partnerships that you made. It was always about being able to do more, to impact more, to affect more people. And you just are better together. We did a speaking engagement this week also to talk about branding. And it was about how we pick our print partners. It's like the print piece where you see our team photo in the ad, that's the icing on the cake. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for brand partners. So people that have an online presence where I can partner my online presence with them. People that do events in the community where I can sponsor those events. I'm looking for someone to help that brand spread. The print piece is like the icing on the cake, right? And you speak totally to that about community partnerships.
Yeah, great points.
Well, and I think it's so funny because from my perspective, I meet with agents at all different levels all of the time. And, I hear that, like, I want to build my brand. I want to but they really are new to the business and they don't have that really to connect. And I often talk to people about, have you considered joining a team? Because if nothing else, it's an internship, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you're only going to be doing this, with this team for 18 months, at least, this is your educational process, right? This is learning and seeing what works. Now, ideally, it works great for you and you see the value and you continue to stay with that. But so many people who get into this business and, and Jesse uses this all the time. He said people join this business because they want more time, they want more money. They usually end up with more time. and I think that it's important that people look at that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that meme. It's like, man, you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm out of time. I don't have any money. You know what? Maybe I think I'll have a baby. Like all of a sudden, or I'm gonna go open a business. You're like, do you understand what you're talking about? Like, you're burned out from. You're like, I need more time, so I'm gonna go open a business. You're like, would anybody in their right mind go, man, I'm just exhausted. I'm broke. And I don't have much time. So I think I was going to open a restaurant. And that's the kind of knuckleheads that a lot of times come into real estate. And that's kind of the mentality because they've watched a show and they're like, I could show 3 houses like they do on HGTV. It's like, well, that's not real, right? I mean, they go back and film that stuff after anyways. It's not reality. But so many people are influenced for these short little snippets, right? Because it used to be, I was even listening to a book this morning. I can't remember what the numbers. It was absurd. We used to see like 450 ads a day. Right now, it's like, thousands and thousands every single day. And that's one of the reasons our attention spans have dropped so much. And so that's why you have to be able to have different things that are going to stand out, that are going to at least get someone to listen to your message. Because there's some amazing agents that are blown out of the business. Why? It wasn't because they weren't better agents, right? Because the reality is the better marketer wins, not necessarily the better agent. That's sad to say, but that's just the world that we live in. If you can't market, if you can't get someone to at least look and say, okay, well, let me at least compare, you're gonna have some really skinny kids, and then you're gonna leave the business.
Yeah, I like those skinny kids. That's well, and also something else that both you and Mindy have both done a great job on, and not to leave Amber up, because I'm sure Amber does this in the mortgage world as well, but is getting connected to other people and networking with, you mentioned early when we first started this conversation about, you don't know what you don't know. But when you're around other people who've had similar experiences, they can help and take that learning curve, make it faster. And so you've done a great job with that, as Mindy has as well.
Yeah, it's all about, your net worth is made up of your network, right? And it's all about how do you collapse time. You don't get you don't get paid for coming in second in this business, and you don't get a bonus by going the hard route, right? Is that there's people, Gary Keller talks about it, is that people have gone before you, right? Standing on the shoulders of giants and going through and modeling. So, go out and find people that have the life and the business that you want, and then spend as much time with them as you can. It's really simple. If you're modeling someone that's selling 3 houses a year and is miserable, and that's your plan, you're like, I'm going to be just like them, then don't be unhappy if that's how you turn out. But if you find someone that you're like, man, you know what? They got their stuff together. They're well-rounded. They've got a good family. If that's important to you, they've got the type of money that you want. They have the type of freedom that you want. Then model those behaviors. But like so many people don't even model anything. They're just like, they just wake up and just start just letting life take over, and then they just sit and whine and complain about it. It's like, man, you know what? Go control it. Go model and spend as much time. And it's not about what people say. Like, watch what they do, right? People go, oh, this is, go do this, and then they go do something else. You're like, well, then do what they did, not what they said, right? Because you just go model their stuff, but go spend as much time as them. There's so many great agents in this business that would love to be able to help and give, and unfortunately, we don't get asked enough. That's probably the reality. We don't get asked enough to help. And so they end up spending their time with broke agents that are available, that have got nothing else going on. And it's the blind leading the blind. It's ridiculous. They're like, well, why'd you do that? You're like, well, because this other broke agent was just sitting in the office hiding from their wife. And so I thought I'd ask them. You're like, well, that wasn't a very smart idea, was it? Right? You know, it's like, go find people that you want to model and spend as much time with them as you can.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And you know, and congratulations on your recent accomplishment of this is your third time through 75 Hard.
Yeah. So, I'm a slow learner.
Yeah. Well, I see what you're doing and how you're doing it out there on Facebook, and congratulations with that. And part of that process though is reading, right? That's what.
Yeah.
So you have to make a big commitment to reading when you're going through that program. So what books, what things have you seen, Curtis, that have had a lot of influence on you, and that if you're somebody who's trying to get to that next level in this business, that they should be starting with those books?
You know, I definitely, I'm a big believer in, you know, obviously for 75 Hard, it's about business books, right? And so I'd read, you know, business books every single day. But I do believe that if your personal life is a disaster, your business is going to be a disaster too. So I think you've got to make sure that you're introspective. You know, whether that, I believe that there's a spiritual side component to that, whether, you know, you're reading scriptures and things. I think that there's some good stuff there. I think that you have to be self-aware of yourself to be able to know your limitations, what things that you're good at, what things that you're not. So self-development stuff. And one book that I liked is, I don't know if you see it over there, is Average Sucks. Is really a cool book, a guy up in Scottsdale. But you know, I love the one thing. I mean, I love business books. It's like almost any business book I get, I start going through. I'm obviously big on audiobooks now. But I read it. It's like almost when I'm in it, I'm like, holy cow, this is like the best book ever. And then I go to the next book, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the best book ever. So I kind of have to watch myself because I get kind of jacked up and excited about stuff that I'm like, almost every book can be like, wow, you know, and honestly, I think it's because I'm looking for it. I'm you know, there's been so many times I've told people, I'm like, oh, you need to go read this book, but they weren't open to it. So, you know, you can't go through a closed door. So it doesn't matter if someone's actually, their eyes are looking at a page. If they don't really actually want to change it, they're like, yeah, the book sucked. Like, well, maybe you suck, right? Like, maybe that's what it is, right? You know, so I think that there's a lot of books. I think it's much about the reader and what space we're in than it is always about what's, you know, the book can be a conduit, right? And I would say, you know, Mindy runs a lot of trainings, we all do. There's a lot of times people can come to the trainings and they're like, that was amazing. And other people are like, yeah, it was all right. And it wasn't the same training. It was, how did they come in, right? Did they have a fight with their boyfriend right before they came in, or a deal just blew up? It's like, that didn't change the training. That just changed the person coming in. So if we fix ourselves, then we can be a whole lot more ready to be able to do it. I know we're going to get into the market here in just a second. One last thing I just want to say about it is that the market is going on, but we are ready for this. We've been preparing. If you've been preparing in your business, you look forward to hard things, right? It's like you want difficult things to be able to show your skill. So if you know, if the public's watching this and your agent's freaked out, that should be a red flag. Look for people that are excited about this market. They're like, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is tough, but we're going to win. It's a game. This is what we're going to do. Because if you're skilled people love to be able to show off their skill, right? I don't have a lot of talents and a lot of stuff, but let's say if I was good at piano or something like that, I would love to probably show people, and I'd want to play the piano for them. I can only play the radio, right? If I was good at golf, which I'm not, I'd want to show off. But in real estate, experts want to show off. So we want to be great at our craft, and we should be leaning into the storm, not running from it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's great. Mindy, did you have something that you wanted to add?
No, I was just kind of speaking to what Curtis was saying about how a book can and can't impact, you know, some and some people not. But, you know, have you ever read a book twice, right? And you read it one time and it means one thing to you, and you read it another time and you get a completely different context based on exactly what Curtis said, which is where you are in your life. And I just love how he wrapped talking about people who are excited about this market, because you're right. It is a time to be excited. There is a ton of opportunity for people. There are challenges, but when is there not? When you stand to make 100,000, 200,000, 300. We throw out these words like they mean nothing to people without taking the time to actually ask people, what would $250,000 do for your family? Whether you want to buy a house is a whole separate topic, but what would this money do for you? We don't spend enough time having those kinds of conversations. And when you get to deliver that kind of message and you get to talk with people about what life-changing things can happen to them in this market, you should be excited. And you're right. If the person on the other side of the table is scared, they're not your partner.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Well, Curtis, thank you for everything you've shared so far. And I know you're going to stick around with us. And we're going to move over to Miss Amber Kavarik and hear about the price of money these days, as well as any other of the impacts and effects that that we're seeing in the finance world.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so some good news on the interest rate front. We've seen interest rates dramatically go up over the last 6 weeks. And just in the last couple of days, we've seen the bond market start to move sideways to even improving slightly. So we're thinking that this could be a time where we see the bond market correct a little bit and give us better interest rates, because just like anything, when it goes up that fast, it's just not sustainable. And the interest rates were never meant to be up this high in this short period of time. And so I'm hoping that we'll start to see them come back down a little bit. Will we see the twos again? I don't know. But, and we can't time the market, right? So what we're continuing to talk to our clients about is that you're not buying the home because of this interest rate. You cannot time where interest rates are, and making sure they know what every 1/8% interest rate really does to their payment, because they always think it's going to affect the payment by more than it really does. And then once you're like last night I talked to a client, she's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, it's $12 a month in your payment for the 1/8%. It's up to you if you want to continue to think about this and wait it out for $12 up or down. And she's like, oh my gosh, no, let's lock it in. I don't want to think about this anymore. And so it's just putting it into a perspective that actually helps them to understand what it means to them financially. So I think we'll see interest rates potentially come back down. So we'll keep our eye on that. And some other big news was that Fannie and Freddie announced this second home and investment property cap. So they basically said that they will not buy more than 7% of any lender's portfolio in second homes or investment properties. And so that was huge news. And just like when they made the adjustment to the refinance interest rates last year, it was an immediate change, because they said this was effective for any loans sold to them on April 1st. It usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get a loan sold to them. So we were already in the thick of it. And so now lenders are having to try to figure out, what are they going to do? How are they going to decrease the percentage of second homes and investment properties that they're doing? Where are they going to sell those? What private investors do they have? So most lenders, I would say, jumped up the interest rates on those products to slow down the origination of them until they figure out what's going to happen. I know at Guild, we increased our interest rates on refinances of second homes and investment properties. So luckily, it has not affected the purchase market for us. But who knows? I think they're just trying to figure out, where is our capacity going to be if we just raise the rates on the investment properties and second home refinances and not the purchases? So I think that 2021 is going to be a year of change. Like, the only thing constant in our market is going to be change, and we're going to have to adapt and figure things out as we go. And it's just the consistent, like, now's the time, like, buy now. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. No one expected interest rates to go up 1% in a 6-week period of time. Like, we don't know. So if it makes sense for you financially, and this buying puts you in a better position, whether it's a better home or a better payment, just do it now. So it's kind of what's going on in the mortgage market.
Well, and always, and I know we've talked about this before, but always keeping in mind that an interest rate in the 3s is amazing.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So yes. I'm sure when Curtis started and they were writing the contract on stone tablets, that that they were using double-digit interest rates. So
not quite, but I do remember agent, just absolutely losing their mind and bawling when they went from 8 1/4 to 8 3/4. That they thought everyone was going to lose their job. Everyone was just going to leave in real estate. They were convinced it was over. So yeah, I mean, it's, things change. It's like almost free money, right?
Right.
Yeah. And
people don't buy the price of the house, they buy the payment. So
they do. And that's what we're always talking about. What's the payment and what's the cash to close? And if those two numbers meet your financial goals, it doesn't matter so much what the price of the house is. So how do we fit this house into those two goals? And interest rates don't drive the housing market. If you look back historically, some of the strongest housing markets have been when interest rates were at their highest. And so this rise in interest rates is not going to slow down our real estate market. And even if it does a little bit, just because we run into some affordability issues, we could use a little bit of that demand to go away so that we can help some people get into homes. And that just is a reminder that any clients that you have out there shopping right now that have that golden ticket, their pre-approval letter, make sure that it is still valid, because we know buyers are taking longer to go under contract now. There's a chance that they were qualified back in 2020 or even early in 21 with much lower interest rates. And if they were maxing out their debt to income ratio, they could be in for a negative surprise. And the last thing you want to do is work so hard to beat out 20 other offers, only to find out your buyer doesn't qualify anymore with the higher rate, or that they're not comfortable with the payment anymore. So they may qualify, but they're like, on a $350,000 mortgage, 0.75% increase in interest rate is $150 a month in their payment. And some clients are really specific on, this is my mortgage budget and I'm not going to go over it. And maybe they were already at the top end of it and they're not willing to do it. And so we want to keep transactions together. So I would, on the listing side, check with the lender before you accept an offer and make sure they tell you that this buyer was qualified at today's interest rates and understands the payments. And for your buyers, I would just make sure that they've been in communication with the lender and they know what it looks like for them in today's interest rate market.
That's great advice, Amber. Thank you so much. And thank you for always being here for us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mindy, so how are we doing out there on that inventory front?
Yeah, so I think probably plenty of people are listening in to Amber. We know we've got both real estate agents watching and also our consumers out there who check in each week to see if they can try and get some insider news into what's happening in the real estate market. And they hear Amber saying it's a great time to buy and they're like, I'm trying, right? And so we know that there's probably more people out there that would want to buy or could buy if they could. And the challenge really is the lack of inventory. One message challenge that I would give to all of you out there is that the situation that we're in currently will not resolve itself overnight. One. Two, it's not a bad thing, right? We live in a place with great weather, with low natural disasters, with great population growth, with increased opportunities for businesses, with local governments that are expanding their services, with restaurants and real estate and locations, commercial locations that are building their footprints. You live in a thriving community. We all have our challenges, every community does, but you live in a thriving location, and with a thriving location comes a thriving housing market. And so I think we need to step back and gain some perspective. We know the challenges are very real. There's going to be some people that can compete in today's market. There's going to be some people that can't. And there's going to be some people that won't. And all three of those options are acceptable options. The partners that you see on the screen, our job is not to leave anyone behind by not providing them the information. So, Curtis made a comment at the beginning that real estate agents matter, right? That we're impacting the market. And I think that's very true when it comes to inventory. I think part of the problem here is that we've got one, just great population growth. That just is what it is, right? So this morning we have about 3,600 listings available on the MLS. This time last year, we had over 12,000 listings available on the MLS, and 2 years ago, almost 19,000 listings on the MLS. So this is a problem that's been increasing each year, and then certainly was made, put into the spotlight last year when we had such low interest rates and continued increased movement into the state. This is not something that is going to go away overnight. I think what's happening, and we experienced it about 6 months ago on the buy side, is not only do you have some fatigue from sellers, from buyers, but you also have some fatigue from real estate agents. And I think the problem is, and I can tell you because, at the Amy Jones Group, we've sold about 50 homes so far this year, and we get a lot of offers that come in. We talk to a lot of cross sale agents, and there's a lot of agents who are uneducated. They are scared. They are worried for their clients, which is great. But they're not giving their clients all of the information that they need to make the best decisions for themselves. And so what's happening is you're getting people who want to take advantage of the current market from a seller's perspective, but they're not being given the opportunity to really understand what that could do for them to be bought in as a person, as a family, before they even choose about the buy side. So I made that comment before, you could make $300,000 on your house, right? So we go to people and we say, hey, you could make, so much money on your house, you probably make $300,000. And they say, I'm not moving in this kind of market. So they've already gone right over the benefit of selling in today's market to the fear and the challenges of buying in today's market, right? They're not yet even invested in what the selling could do for them and their family. So that's where we need to stop the conversation. We need to back up. We need to get a calculator out, tell them exactly how much it is that they can make on the sale of their home, and what could that money do for their family? What would they do with it? Would they buy a bigger house? Would they get into a smaller house? Would they put up $150,000 into a college savings account for their child? What would they do with it? And then once they've decided what they would do with it, then we need to be asking the question, do you want to try and get that? There are 20 ways to be able to get that. Mm-hmm. If you're invested in wanting to get that, I can give you 20 ways to get that. And then you're going to go down the list and you're going to say, nope, no way, not doing that. Nope, not doing that one. That one I might think about. Maybe you give me a little more information on that. Nope, definitely not doing that, not sticking my 12 kids and my 15 dogs in a rental. Nope, not doing that one, right? And then we take your list and you say, oh, 2 of those I might do. If it means I get to put $150,000 into my college savings account for my kids, still have a down payment to get into a house, and put a little money into a credit card account or a savings account that I didn't have before. Let's talk about those 2. Now, the question is, which real estate professional is willing to sit down and spend the time to have that conversation with our clients? And if they're not, why are we surprised that there's not a lot of inventory on the market? Who is going to naturally dip their foot into a challenging environment when it comes to their home and their family when they're just fine where they are?
Well,
not many people.
Right. Well, and I think that that's so true, Mindy. And I think that the reality is what we see is that there is, there's a lack of understanding, but we're talking about a lot of money. We're not talking about, hey, I'm going to, not that $5,000 isn't a lot of money, but, but we're not talking about like a $5,000 bump. We're talking about, really big bumps in how much
hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. And I think that is so important to have that conversation about what that money does. And, and it does change people's lives. And this is an opportunity.
And of course, that's only one subset of the population that we work with right now. As real estate agents, we work with all folks who need homes. Amber, you mentioned when interest rates change, it doesn't crash the real estate market, right? Why? Because we're not talking about a purse. We're not talking about shoes. We're talking about housing. People will need housing no matter how much it costs and where it is, whether it's affordable, whether it's something that they can have, that's a different conversation. But they will always need housing. So when people stop talking about markets crashing, markets gaining, markets falling, and get back to the family and the person, this is the environment. This is what we know. These are the strategies to compete right now. This is how you can get what you want. Do you want that? And I don't think that we're doing enough of that. And people need us. People need us right now to help with these conversations. And if you go through that whole conversation and the answer is no, then the follow-up is not, okay, well, I never talked to you again. Good luck with your life. Hope you don't have to make any other large decisions on your own. The follow-up is, great, I'll call you in 3 months or 6 months, and we'll see if something has changed. We'll see if your circumstances have changed. We'll see if the dollar amount has changed. make sure that if you still need us, we're still there, right? So it's playing out in the numbers. It's the listings continue to decline. If you look in Buckeye, for example, they have 56 homes available for sale. Or Maricopa, they have there's a few new ones, new construction, but they have 27 homes on the market. I mean, the numbers are just so shockingly low. And so I think people understand if they want to sell their house right now, they can do it. There's there's no challenges. How much they sell it for and what the terms and the experience will be like will depend on who you're in business with, right? And so I think we know that there's an opportunity for people there. We need to help people have more conversations right now about what this could do for them. Because those numbers are continuing to decline. We thought maybe we saw them pick up for a couple of weeks at the beginning of March. I think we mentioned this last week. There were a couple of weeks where we saw more listings come to market than normal. And we were hopeful that maybe, people realized that there were some options for them and there wasn't quite, the log jam for everyone. Again, it's not for everyone. But that has changed. And I think we also were hopeful, right now, the appreciation is moving so quickly. So we're at about 3% a month. So that would be 40% annualized, which is kind of insane. The only reason that's happening, it's not because we have so few houses. People say, well, there's such high demand. Yes, and it's because people have cash, right? At some point, the demand will still be here because the population is here. I mean, these are people. They're not going to go anywhere. But they'll run out of the cash. So they'll be qualified. But you as a seller will have to sell for what your neighbor sold for. Right. That's the difference right now. You don't have to sell for what your neighbor sold for. And so I think what will change is we'll make our way through the people that have the cash, and then the market will no longer necessitate appraisal waivers because you'll still get 10 offers, but no one will offer you that. And we'll probably see that first, I would imagine, between like the 400 and 600 range, like, depending on where you are in the valley, obviously, but like that middle bucket, because I think the higher bucket cash will stay longer. And then in the low bucket, it's a lot of all cash. So you got a lot of full cash. But I think that middle bucket will start to see it the soonest. And that's still going to take a little bit of time.
Amber, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
I just wanted to say that I so agree with everything Mindy is saying, as usual. But I have agents coming to me saying, what's the silver bullet to get listings? How do I get listings? And I'm like, you have to have conversations. You have to call your clients and you have to ask them questions, like good questions. It's all about the questions you're asking right now. Because if you're just like, hey, are you curious about selling your home? They're going to say no. Like when you walk into a store and someone's like, can I help you? And you're like, no, although they probably could. You have to have the relationship. You've got to ask the right questions. I totally agree that we're only going to get out of this if everyone does their job and has the questions to like really dig deep to see how would selling the home right now impact this family? Where would they benefit? Does it make sense? Because you're right. No one's like, I would love to maybe be homeless and have to be in a VRBO for a month and move my family. No, but if you paint the picture of why now, they're fully in. So I just love it. It's so smart.
Yeah. So we have a couple minutes left. And so Curtis and Mindy, this question's for both of you guys and about new builds. And I've been hearing a lot about changes around procedures for selecting who's getting who's in line for that next new build. So
who's winning the lotteries, right?
Yeah, well, because not even lotteries in some cases, right? They're like called back. Like I've been hearing all kinds of crazy stuff. So what have you guys seen out there? What should people be aware of?
I just want to compliment Mindy on nailing everything about the market. She did a fantastic job, and I think that you can tell the difference between an amateur and a professional. So she did an amazing job with that and brought everybody really up to speed with that. So I think we're seeing stuff in the new builds. I mean, again, I think the new builds epitomize the golden rule, right? First of all, they've got lumber issues. They got all kinds of issues in building and in workers and all kinds of stuff with it. But it's the golden rule, right? He with the gold makes a rule. So they feel like they're in a very strong position right now. Because a lot of times people get beat out on houses. They go, well, what's the next? Maybe I'll just go build and I'll have less competition there. In some cases you do, but not always, right? They're out of options in a lot of cases. So I think you see builders, depending on the size of the builder, they've got to try to make profits. They've got to be able to do stuff, and they look at how can they do that. They can do it by, taking cash now and slowing, the build time out. They can be able to, make it so if they're publicly traded, hit certain projections. They can look for ways to be able to minimize the impact of real estate agents and any associated costs that they see. And again, they did this before, right? In the spike up in the 15 years ago, whatever, they went down to, they're like, no, you can bring buyers, we're not going to pay you, or here's a car wash or something like that, versus, when there's tons of inventory, can we please come to your office meeting and bring you food and gold and jewels and all kinds of things to bribe you to bring your people. So, it's not real. That's why you got to get with a professional that can walk you through it, that's been there, that knows the options. But it's too expensive to hire an amateur.
Yeah.
And I think from the consumer perspective, it's very different than it was even 6 months ago. Last summer, we were really happy with the amount of new construction inventory that we could get our clients into, and we really pushed them in that direction. And we've got a lot of clients who are closing now who are so grateful because they do see what the challenges are on the purchase side right now. But yeah, they've changed. So we've got interest lists. There's about 950 people on the interest list at Canopy South and Chandler. You've got communities like Waterston that you couldn't get on the interest list today, even if you wanted to. They won't have enough houses for you by the time they get to you. There's builders doing highest and best on lot releases. We're seeing that at Lennar. So you've got a variety of different ways to get into builders right now, but the language is getting increasingly more complicated. And so consumers are being faced with a lot of things that they don't necessarily understand how to navigate. So I agree, a professional is very important. We are seeing new communities continue to develop all the time. So the key is working with someone, on our team. We're constantly, when we drive around, snapping a photo when we see one of the signs go up or a permit sign go up. Before we even know what it is, so that we can try and get on an interest list, so that we'll be notified when there's something to be notified of. But it's about getting in early. It's about checking your options. It's about being pre-qualified, so you even know if something were to pop up, what you would be able to do. I mean, that you've got to get done first. So yeah, unfortunately, the new construction is not even what it was a year ago. A year ago, we were saying at some point they're going to want to get some of this appreciation. The resale side is appreciating much quicker. Well, they figured that out. They do less lot releases, greater increase between the lot releases. I mean, we see $50,000, $75,000 base price increases between the set of lot releases from 1 month to the next. So they've shored up that gap, which we knew was coming. But yeah, it's a little more complicated. And so certainly something that needs a little bit of guidance and navigation.
Well, I have to tell you, anybody who has taken the time to watch today, or will watch the replay of this, or on our Market of the Moment Express, which should have out on Monday, is definitely benefiting from everything that you guys have shared today. So I appreciate all of you taking the time to be on here, and we're excited, and thank you so much. Next week, we are going to have Mike Conway, the owner of Conway Real Estate, joining us. So that will be
guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and I don't know Mike well, but I hear amazing things about him. So we're looking forward to being joined with him. And thank you all again for your time. And if you have any questions, if you want to be put in contact with anybody that's on, please let us know, and we are happy to make that connection for you. So have a great rest of your week and weekend, and look forward to seeing everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.